So here's the good news. You want to see a really good news story? Here's the picture of jobs lost in the United States. And this is the Bush administration over here in red. And as we reached January 20th, 2009, we remember that day quite vividly, January 20th, 2009, 780,000 jobs were lost in January 2009. As you can see, following on a pattern of the preceding months of the Bush administration in terms of this failed economic policy, kind of, if you don't answer calls at the SEC, there's a guy named Madoff that might be bilking people, if you don't regulate derivatives or swaps, you kind of turn a blind eye to the whole impact that could have, and many other things. 780,000 jobs. In the month before, 700,000. The month before, 720,000. Really not a good picture, month after month. Then in February of 2009, the Obama administration arrives with a stimulus package. You know, you can't turn around the Queen Mary overnight, but look what happened in the months since then coming up to February. We almost have a reverse image of what was happening during the Bush administration. Month after month, we see fewer and fewer jobs being lost in our economy. For 1 month there, November, it actually went positive. We actually had job creation. And now we're down to a point where it's no more than 20, 30, 40,000 jobs that we're losing per month. So you can see that it's highly likely that this is going to start spiking up with new job creation in our country. Now, I would like to think that this economic plan of the President is working, that the stimulus bill is working, that the tax breaks are working, and that we are turning a corner, and that the Obama plan is the antidote to the Bush plan, two different plans about how to run the economy. Now, we didn't cause the accident. We're out in the street trying to clean it up. You know, some people start to blame us for trying to clean up the accident, okay? All that blood, you know, in our economy. So after a year, some people start to basically confuse the people cleaning up after the accident with the people who created it. And that's one of our problems. We admit that, okay? But it's a political problem from a messaging perspective, not an economic problem from the perspective of how it is working. And so what we are seeing in the testimony we're hearing today from our witnesses is the incredible success of the stimulus bill. And if I could ask you, do you think 2010, Mr. Ashley, will be better than 2009 for the solar industry?
Yes, sir, I do. And like I said, we're sold out through mid-2011.
You're sold out now. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's why.
Where would you be without the stimulus bill?
We would not be in that situation.
You would not be. Mr. Gaynor, what does 2010 look like for you?
2010 is expect to build 300 megawatts of capacity this year, 7 wind farms. One of them we're just wrapping up.
Where would you be without the stimulus plan?
It would be a much different picture.
A better picture?
No, it would not be a much better picture. It would be much worse.
Much worse.
Tough to quantify. But again, the thing that's important for our business is, in a capital-intensive business, you're taking what the Recovery Act is doing is not only getting those dollars, but you're taking a lot of dollars from the private sector and pulling it off the sidelines to come in and build wind farms.
So venture capitalists, other investors, they're on the sideline. They're saying, "Oh my goodness, look at all that blood in the economy. Look at all that red." But all of a sudden, in 2009, with the stimulus bill, they're saying, well, maybe it's safe again. Maybe we can go back into those economic waters, and if there's going to be some federal money, perhaps. And how many new private sector dollars were you able to attract in 2009?
$700 million.
$700 million just for your one company.
Right.
Amazing. That's a huge amount of money.
For the 1603 projects.
Under the what project?
The wind stimulus.
The wind stimulus bill
Right.
attracted unbelievable 700 just for your one company. That's fantastic. And Ms. Wright, over here in your battery company, how many new jobs would you have created in the United States in 2009 and 2010 without the stimulus program?
Very few.
By very few, what do you mean by that?
Potentially some engineers.
How
in
many?
Potentially some engineers in our Milwaukee, but
No,
this.
some. When you say some, are you talking about hundreds?
No, 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 no.
No, what do you mean
A
by
handful,
some?
A handful.
What is a handful?
With
Is
the-
that a handful?
That's a handful.
5 people, maybe. Now,
with-
because of the stimulus bill, how many do you think you'll be creating?
So we'll be hiring engineers and scientists in Wisconsin as we've
And how
already
many,
started.
give us some numbers. People want to hear good news. People want to have hope that this economic recovery is going to continue and that the
Thank you.
stimulus bill is working. So how many new people do you think will get hired?
Well, so if you'll indulge me for a moment, at full capacity, our plant in Holland will employ 550 people, not to mention.
Your plant's where?
In Holland, Michigan.
Holland, Michigan. See,
At
people
full
think
capacity.
Holland is in Europe. No, Holland
Holland.
is in Michigan.
Holland, Michigan.
So how many employees will you have in Holland, Michigan?
At full capacity, it'll be 550, not to mention the
550 people
supplier and the indirect jobs. In Milwaukee, we will continue to hire engineers and scientists to promote
Wow.
our technology.
So without the stimulus bill, a handful, 5, okay? With the stimulus bill, 500 and more people who will be working who otherwise would not be working here in the United States. And you wouldn't even be building a plant in the United States. Is that what you told us?
That is correct.
You'd be building it perhaps in Holland, Europe. Is that right?
In the Netherlands, Holland?
Is that correct?
Somewhere in Europe or Asia, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. So that wouldn't be good news for American workers. So this is really a fantastic good news story for our country. And this energy sector just might be the brightest of all the bright spots in the recovery bill, because it gives hope to families that there is going to be a source of new jobs, from Mr. Cleaver and the smart grid they're building and the most economically challenged part of Kansas City, through Georgia with Mr. Ashley and Mr. Gaynor's company that sprawls all across our country, Utah and Maine and states all across our great country. Ms. Wright is in Wisconsin and in Michigan with her new job creation. Ms. Pat McDonald in Ohio with 1,000 people out there weatherizing homes in 2009, but many more in 2010. Is that correct? Who will be out there? And you can't offshore weatherizing jobs. You've got to be there in Ohio. You have to be in Akron. You've got to be in Canton. If you're not there, it's not going to get weatherized. So those are by definition domestic jobs, huh? So these are engineers, carpenters, laborers, scientists. It's across the entire economic spectrum of our country, the people who are benefiting. So that is really great news. And it helps us to reduce, and here's where we'll share our agreement with Mr. Johnson. It'll reduce the unemployment benefits that we have to pay out of taxpayers' dollars for people in our country. And that's one thing we really do hope to achieve.